Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Jeep Solid Garage. So my project threw me a little curveball. Today we're going to be looking at a leaking fuel injector. Not what I was planning on doing. I was really hoping to get my new radiator installed. The radiator on this Project 92YJ is just destroyed. Really needs a new one. But I went to start it the other day and I could smell gas. Investigated it and sure enough, leaking fuel injector. So my nice rebuilt engine, got new fuel injectors in there as well. And that's one thing you need to double check whenever you're doing your fuel injectors. Be very careful of leaks. When I primed the fuel rail, got in the cab, turned the ignition on and off a few times. See right down there, a little puddle of gas. It's leaking out of fuel injector number 4 right there. And if you're new to my channel, so that's what I'm all about, is helping you guys with repairs and maintenance, saving yourself a ton of money doing these things yourself. So let's dig into this. When you climb in the cab of your vehicle, you can just click your key on and then off, on, off a couple times just to pressurize your system. I hadn't driven this in a few weeks, so I did that a couple times. And then I got out and just double checked the engine bay one time to make sure I had all my tools and everything out of the way. That's when I noticed the gas. So fortunately I found it, but let's dig into it and see what's going on. Most likely I have one of the O-rings tweaked a little bit or torn. When you're installing these new fuel injectors, that's one of the risks, is if you don't get the O-rings in there just right, meaning they can be torn or tweaked a little bit, you'll end up with a leak like this. So let's tear it apart and see what we got. What do you say, Tootsie? We'll get started. Yeah. So first step, we're going to disconnect our battery there. I really thought I was done with this part of it. Did not want to be doing this again. Taking my fuel rail off. So I'm going to bust it out real quick here. Let's get this air box out of the way. Let's get the throttle cable off. Just pops off. Get our throttle cable out of the way. Now I've got the number 4 injector disconnected here already. I'll go ahead and disconnect the others, but sure you label all these really well. You don't want to get these mixed up. Some of the vacuum lines out of the way. Disconnect some of the wiring off the intake here. Let's see. Fortunately, these guys only plug into one spot, so you can't really mess them up. So I'm going to have to remove the whole fuel rail right here. We're going to disconnect our fuel injectors, the wiring to them as well, and label these guys. That's what I was talking about. Keep them in order. And we want to make sure we don't have any pressurized fuel in the fuel rail any longer. So there's a little Schrader valve right here. Open this guy up, depress this little Schrader valve, bleed off any extra fuel in there. But because I got that leaking injector, all the pressure's bled off already. So just something to be careful of when you are removing your fuel injectors or your fuel rail. But yeah, a little frustrating when you have other plans and life comes along and says, nope. You're not working on your new radiator today because you need to figure out this leak. So hopefully it's just a O-ring that's tweaked a little bit. But let's pull the rail here and figure out what's going on. And that guy is not 5/16. They always have to have one that is different. I think it's a requirement. We're going to have 3 of them the same, one of them that's different. Alrighty, and with that, our fuel rail is loose here. So it just pulls right out, but it can be a little bit of a pain to get out. Alright, kind of made a mess and got gas all over, so just be prepared for that. Your fuel rail is going to be all full of gas, even though you bleed off the pressure. It just comes dribbling out. Now it was injector number 4 here, and it was down at the manifold, not on the fuel rail side. Down on the manifold there where it was leaking, I could just see it dribbling out when I had pressurized the system. So let's pull this guy out and see what we got going on. Now whoa there, hold on a second, time out. After looking at this and thinking about it a little bit more, in hindsight, that's not correct. I kind of misspoke there. On a fuel injected system like this, so you got your fuel lines here, your fuel rail, this is all pressurized, and it's pressurized on this side. So with my fuel injector, if I was getting a leak just with pressurizing this without the engine running, I was not getting a leak down here. It's not possible that it was leaking down here on the fuel injector unless the injector itself was leaking internally and then coming around the manifold down there. The leak had to be up here where the fuel injector attaches to the rail. Even though it looked to me like it was leaking down around here, because that's where I saw it kind of coming out, it had to be just kind of running down the side of the fuel injector, making a little puddle down there. And as we investigate a little bit further, you'll see on this injector what the problem was. By first inspection, the O-ring actually looks okay. It's not torn, it's not damaged. So I must have just had it kind of tweaked in there, not seated all the way. But actually on the fuel rail side, this O-ring here, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little chunk out of it on the top there. So maybe that was my issue, but I really thought it was coming from on this end down here. But this O-ring, I'm going to replace that guy. We'll put it back together and see what we get. I'm going to clean that out, make sure there's no debris down in there and it's a nice clean surface. Yeah, there's a little bit of gunk down in here. A couple little chunks of stuff, so got another O-ring from my other set. We'll get this new one on here and just give this a shot. And maybe a little hard to see here, but you want to get a little bit of petroleum jelly, some kind of lubricant on these O-rings when you're installing them. You don't want to install them dry. Otherwise, you're going to end up with leaks like I did. Getting them tweaked or torn. A little petroleum jelly won't hurt your fuel injectors at all. These guys all fit so tight into the fuel rail that I went ahead and pulled them out of the manifold, got them in the fuel rail first. Then we can put them into the manifold all together. There we go. All right, all the injectors look tight now, so let's reinstall everything and then check the pressure. Now getting the fuel rail just bolted on without any of the injectors hooked up or vacuum lines, throttle, I don't need any of that hooked up. I can go ahead and pressurize the system here and check for leaks. Alrighty, turn the key on here. Listen for the fuel pump. There we go, I can hear it. Do that a couple times. So everything looks dry so far. It's a good sign. I don't see any leaks around the manifold or fuel injectors at all. I want to check the Schrader valve, make sure that we do have good pressure in there and fuel squirting out. So let's give that a real quick check. Boy, who put that on there? Good grief. See if we got any fuel here. Yep, we got fuel. So awesome. Let's get all of our injectors hooked back up here. Put everything back together and fire it up, see what we got. Make sure we still don't have any leaks. That's frustrating though, to work on a project, get it done, go to do something else, find out you got an issue with your project you thought you had done. But it's life, I guess, right? Let's just double check all of our connections, make sure we got everything hooked back up, and then we'll fire it up and see if it leaks. All right, everything looks good to go. Let's move some of our tools here and we'll fire it up. I think that is everything. Everything's clear. Double check for leaks. Don't see any. All right. Let's give this thing a try. Should probably have it neutral. Prime up our fuel pump again. I didn't hear it. There we go. All right, excellent. And everything looks dry. So that wasn't so bad, got it all fixed up. Now we can get to that radiator in the next few weeks here. So thank you guys for watching, appreciate your support, and be sure to check out my next video right up here. Have a good day.